to Book 101 Radio. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. Well, found he's a coaching dynamic and relatable, as well as a founder and CEO, no other than Miss Maren Perry.
Thanks, Daniel. Great to be here.
Welcome, Miss Maren. Can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Uh, Absolutely. So, I am the founder and CEO of Arden Coaching. We're a leadership development firm serving corporations nationwide and globally with leadership development programs and executive coaching to make better leaders throughout their life cycle in an organization.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Maren. Thank you. And today, let's talk about stop wasting money on leadership training that doesn't work. So tell us, Miss Maren, what is all about?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this topic. I mean, I have spent years watching organizations pour money into programs that look great on paper, but actually don't have the impact that they're hoping for them to have. So I think that a lot of organizations focus on leadership development as an event, like a one-time thing. By the time they get around to all the things that are on their desk, usually in HR, uh, they are looking to make a large impact, and they're trying to do it with an event rather than something that's programmatic and exists over time.
Miss Maren, what is the single biggest waste of money in these programs? Is it the content itself or the delivery model?
That's a good question. I think that the content isn't enough. You can have great content that just isn't sticky. The issue is usually the application. I mean, look, especially in the world of AI, we have more information than we've ever had.
Yes.
Information is not the challenge. That's not really the issue. The issue is getting it applied, having actual humans apply the learning in real time, in real situations. So I don't think it's the information that makes the difference. There can be great content in a leadership development program, but if it isn't sticky, if it isn't applicable, if people don't know how to use it when the rubber meets the road in their real job, then it's a waste of the organization's money.
So you argue that leadership training is often treated as one-time event, and why isn't a model fundamentally flawed when it comes to creating a lasting behavioral change?
Well, the research says that human beings don't learn in a single event, right? We've all been to some great workshop or listened to a great TED talk or read a great book and then put it down, stuck it in a drawer, and not done anything with it. Right? So,
True.
the single event can be inspiring, it can be motivating, but is it really going to shift behavior that has been ingrained for years or decades? I think that's really the challenge. If you and I started to try to brush our teeth with the opposite hand tonight than we usually do, it would take us months to get good at that, right? And that's just something simple like brushing your teeth. You're not talking about navigating strategy or having difficult, challenging conversations or offering better feedback or leveraging influence. All of those things, are going to take way more practice than something as quote unquote simple as brushing your teeth, although I would make a complete mess of my face if I tried to do that with my
Yes.
opposite hand. So um, we need more practice. We need more at bats. We need programs that sustain and allow for application over time.
Practice make you perfect, people. That's why
That's
we
right.
are human.
That's right. I don't know about perfect, but at least better.
Yes, better. How does a lack of connection between the training content and the leader's actual day-to-day challenges immediately doom a program to failure.
Hmm. You know, I think in general, a lot of content for leadership development programs is is on the right track, except we miss that application piece. I think the programs are not typically customized to an individual company or the department that is going through the training or the level that's going through the training. I mean, talking about let's take what I already referenced, difficult conversations or providing feedback. Everyone has to provide feedback. So when we talk about providing feedback, everyone will do that in a different way at different levels or in different departments, or when they are talking to clients or stakeholders versus a peer. So I think that the programmatic content often doesn't flex enough to address those different scenarios and give people a chance to really think and practice in the room and out of the room, um, what they will say in that situation, what they will do, how they'll approach it, how nervous they'll be. Right? They don't necessarily address the mindset component as much as the uh, skill set component. So a good program will do both. We'll address the skill set. There are definitely techniques about giving feedback. There are plenty of them. But there's also a mindset. If I believe that I'm hurting someone when I give them feedback, you can give me techniques all day long and it's probably not going to make a difference. I still don't want to do it because I think I'm hurting them. Right. And I believe myself to be an intrinsically good person and I don't want to cause someone harm. If I shift the mindset, for instance, to something like, um, feedback is an opportunity for them to grow. I'm not harming them. I'm actually providing them with tools. Well, now maybe I have a different approach to that conversation. Maybe I feel more willing to use the techniques that I've learned. So I think, in answer to your question, that the programs don't provide for enough of that mindset piece. Uh, if you only are existing on skill set, it's kind of the same thing as with the information. We have plenty of information. There are plenty of tools out there, but person A and person B are going to need something slightly different. And the programs have to adjust to that and provide for something that will be applicable to all different kinds of leaders in different situations.
Be applicable for sure. And Miss Marin, what is the role of a leader's own manager in the failure of most training? Is it a lack of post-training reinforcement and accountability, the silent killer of ROI?
What is the manager's role in leadership
Yes.
development? Yes. So it's a great question. I do think that sometimes managers are prone to believing that it's not their job, right? It's not their expertise. And that's often not their fault. A lot of managers have been promoted because of their subject matter expertise. They are not leadership development experts. They are not necessarily even that great with people. They just were great at finance or marketing or whatever got them to this role. And in many organizations, people are elevated based on subject matter expertise. So that's a different conversation. But once they get there, I think that they are too prone to farm that out. Like, oh, HR has people going through a leadership development program. So great. They're going to come back better leaders. They're going to come back better managers. And I don't think that that's enough. I think, to your point, the ROI of that program does depend on that manager, their supervisor, interacting with them, providing them with feedback. How is that person supposed to know if they've applied things well, if their manager doesn't give them that feedback? So I do think that in a good program, there's a contribution from the manager up front. So the manager can say, hey, what I'd really like John to be working on is X, Y, and Z. And then John can say, and what I'm interested in working on is X and Y, but also Q, right? So now you have a bucket of things that this person is working on. Those things should be tracked throughout the program and then evaluated at the end so that there's some data about what will make a difference in that manager's world, in the participants' world, in the company's world. how will this leadership development program, let's say, impact that person's work? It can't just be something that feels good or sounds like a good idea, right? It has to impact the areas that will make the biggest difference to the organization. So the manager is that critical bridge between the organization and the individual being developed. The manager has to translate the organizational needs and make sure that this person gets feedback about how they can grow in those areas to perform at their best.
Ms. Maren, if we stop thinking training and start thinking development, what does the process actually look like in 1 week, 2 week basis?
I love your question and the distinction between training and development. Thank you. Um, you know, 1 week, in 1 week, you might participate in a workshop of some kind. But to my point earlier about application, it needs more touches. So while week one may be the workshop or the kind of download of information, that training piece, you need the application portion. So week two is probably a follow up, a coaching session, a cohort coaching session, an individual coaching session, some follow up discussion, a conversation with the manager, something that integrates that behavior and allows the participant to continue to practice, right? They have to get more at bats. We don't get great at anything, to your point, practice makes perfect. We don't get great at anything in one try. And we can't learn something that is by its nature about interaction. Leadership is all about interaction. Um, we can't learn that sitting in a classroom. You wouldn't learn how to swim sitting in a classroom either, right? You got to get in the pool. So it's the same thing with leadership. You have to go somewhere where you can practice the difficult conversations and the influence and the strategic thinking. You have to get more at bats. So week one, program, week two, coaching, week four, week eight, week 27, coaching, application, manager involvement, right? There have to be many touches.
You talk about the importance of application. What is a practical way to structure application assignment that force leaders to use a new skills immediately in their real world context?
That's great. Well, I think it should be built into the leadership development program. So this should not be on the company to just create from nothing, right? This should be part of the program. Our leadership programs, for instance, have digital nudges. We have assignments for people. We have development programs. We have conversations with managers built in. We have coaching one-on-one or in group settings. So the company can look at that kind of structure. They can build their own. Ideally, it's built into the leadership development program that they're purchasing or developing themselves, but it needs to have many different ways to practice because we have different kinds of learners, right? Someone will learn really well by having a specific assignment. Someone else will learn well by talking to their coach about different ways that they can apply the learning that may not be exactly what that assignment was, but it's tweaked for their particular job description or their needs. So um, humans are messy. We're very colorful. We're not black and white. And so we need variety and we need customization because one size does not fit all.
How must a role of the HR business partner and the leader's direct manager change to become a true coaches in this ongoing process, Miss Marin?
Uh, I think HR folks and people in talent development, I think that their first love is typically the people. They get into it because they want the human side of human resources, right? They want to support the people. They love that interaction. When I speak with groups of HR professionals, I know that they have so many things on their plate. They're responsible for everything from, benefits to conflict to performance management to leadership development. They have so many things on their plate. But the thing that they all say that they wish they could do more of is spend more time coaching and more time developing people, because I think it gets to the heart of their real love. They're there for the people and they know that that makes a difference. So I think that the more they can spend that time one-on-one, and it doesn't have to take long. It's when someone knocks on your door and says, "Hey, could I ask you something about getting along with Sharon?" And you could ask some coaching questions and help them reflect for themselves using coaching skills that are not part of some long coaching engagement, right? That's just coaching skills in the moment. The more they can do that, the more they can help their leaders apply the learning.
Miss Maren, as a founder and CEO, Arden Coaching, dynamic and relatable. What are your short-term and long-term goals?
Oh, my short and long-term goals. Great. Thanks for asking. Well, we have a 5-year growth plan for Arden Coaching. We're really expanding our leadership development programs, actually a lot of what we've been talking about. We've had some programs for about 8 years, and we've split them into a couple different tracks to really provide for different levels of leadership in an organization. So that growth is an important part of our long-term plan. Short-term plan is, what's my shortest term goal? I think, I've personally changed a lot of my leadership team internally over the last year. So one of my short-term goals is developing them and making sure that they're integrated into Arden's culture and uh, able to thrive in their current positions.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Maren, and wow, looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Oh gosh, can I talk about a book?
Oh yes,
Can I talk
definitely.
about a book? Okay, so um, I mean, I have a bookshelf full of things that I would love to talk about, but the one that I thought we could talk about today is Great by Choice by Jim Collins.
Okay.
Um, it's over a decade old, but it talks about thriving in uncertainty, and I think that it's incredibly applicable to today's world. Um, and I actually think it applies a lot to the leadership development conversation. So I certainly have referenced this thinking and this book in terms of my own entrepreneurial success. I mean, we've been around 18 years, which is just a little longer than this book. I mean, I remember reading this book on the subway in New York City many years ago. Uh, but I think it also applies to leadership development programs. Jim Collins talks about 10x companies. I'm sure you're familiar with this book. It's about
Mhm.
10x companies in leadership. They took a number of companies, studied companies side by side, a whole group of companies that grew 10x, tenfold over a period of time, and some that didn't, that were all paired. So it was company A and company B. Company A thrived, company B did not, but they existed in the same space at the same time. So he was looking at, why is that? Why does one thrive when the other doesn't? And he had three main principles that he determined that these thriving companies all had in common: fanatic discipline, productive paranoia, and empirical creativity. And I think you can apply all of those to leadership development programs. If you have a moment, I'll tell you how, but I think that that's the
Yes, go ahead.
best. Okay. Um, so one of my favorite stories in the book is about the 20-mile march. Are you familiar with that story? The
Oh
South
no,
Pole.
can you please?
Sure. Yeah. So there were two expeditions to the South Pole. I'll probably get the year wrong, but it's like 1920. Wool coats and boots, and no Gore-Tex, no, like these are the first people to reach the South Pole, two expeditions at the same time. And long story short, one of the expeditions, they encountered the same weather, right? They're starting at the same time. One of the expeditions would go as far as they could on good days, rest on the bad days, wait for the blizzard to pass, and then proceed. The other group went approximately 20 miles every day, rain or shine, blizzard or clear, blue skies or not. And Collins in the books talks about the discipline that it takes to go that 20 miles every day, both when it's blizzarding and it doesn't seem like a good idea, but also when it's sunny out. And the job you have is to actually stop and say, No, that's enough for today. We have to build up our strength for tomorrow. Um, so the way this relates to leadership development is that I think that steadiness and discipline to continue and have that application over time, and not just a flashy program here, a flashy program there. That discipline, I think, applied to leadership development programs is essential. So that was the first tier. The second one is the productive paranoia, which in the case of the companies that he gave the examples of, um, was about understanding that, let's just say, life happens, right? Some things go wrong. And you don't know what's going to happen, but you know something will over the course of time. And so good leaders prepare for that in a paranoid fashion. And anticipating that failure, I think, is something that leadership development programs can hold on to, and the HR folks who are developing them. I think that you have to build resilience and accountability into those programs. You can't assume that people are going to apply all those new learnings perfectly, right? I know I sound like a
Yes.
broken record, but it takes the application, right? They need time to try and fail, to try again. People are resistant to new behaviors. And so you have to build and bake that in to the program itself. Real world scenarios, customized to those participants so that you're anticipating resistance and failure and errors, cultural resistance, shifting priorities, right? You have to build that into the program. And the last leg of the stool was the empirical creativity. In the book, he talks about fire bullets, then cannonballs. And while that is a violent metaphor that I don't particularly love, it really gets at the heart of it, which is, if you have a limited amount of ammunition, which every company does, right? You have resource restraints. You only have so much money to spend on something. Are you going to take that all and fire it all in one big shot? Or are you going to take it and test theories? Did this work? Did that work? What do people want? What are they asking for? What do I see this department need versus that department need? And to test those theories in small bits before you commit to something that is basically spending all your ammunition. And I think most programs fail to do that because they don't get feedback. They don't get enough feedback. In our programs, we not only get feedback when we do an event, but we get it 6 months later, right? Long after people have, forgotten that program, right? We're getting feedback later because that's when it matters. You don't care if someone does something for a week. You care if someone does something for 6 months. So,
Yes.
so that's empirical creativity. Try, explore, get feedback, adapt. That's critical as well. So I think those are the ways that the great by choice principles apply to leadership development programs.
Thank you for that recommended book, Ms. Maren. Thank you, thank you. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast. Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season. And Movie 101 Review Music 101 in fourth season. And Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Maran, if you could issue one final mandate to every shift HR officer about effective leadership development, what would it be?
Start funding consistency rather than a feel good one off event or accomplishment. Fund the application, fund the practice, fund the application.
Find the application indeed. Miss Maren Perry. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, any projects that you want to promote on Book 101 Review?
Oh, thanks for asking. We have an assessment to help organizations understand where their gaps might be in leadership development. I'm happy to offer it to your listeners for free. If they go to our website, which is ardencoaching.com, they can contact us there. If they mention Book 101 review, I'm happy to offer that to them complimentary.
Yes, people, better business starts with the better leaders. So, Miss Maren Perry, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here.
More to come, people. See you soon.